Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. Thank you for stopping by. I like this picture of a frozen wave in Antarctica from globe_pics. Pretty dramatic, I thought. Looking forward to hosting the mercurial Aaron Ramboui at Mindspeak tomorrow. That's from 9:30 a.m. Aaron told me he only started learning to play the keyboard when he was 17, and that he was a drummer before, and that his music is a fusion of jazz, benga, gospel. He's going to give us a 360-degree view of music, from hosting festivals as the convener of all that jazz to the cyclicality of a musician's earnings, all liberally sprinkled with his wonderful music. Mindspeak is a free-to-attend forum, and I look forward to hosting him. Our first musical Mindspeak was with Eric Wainana and Sheba Hurst. The second was with Giuliani, and in fact Aaron accompanied Giuliani, and I still got a small recording of their song Smile, the World Needs It. And I'll put up a link for the previous Mindspeaks that we've had this year. Home thoughts turned to a fellow called Jeet Thayil, who wrote this extraordinary book called Narcopolis. And this struck me. My religion is no way of knowing me, he said. The world is on fire. Time is a bomb. 10,000 years are not enough when so much remains to be done. And then I went from there to Thomas Pynchon. Behind the hieroglyphic streets there would either be a transcendent meaning or only the earth. And my favorite, no matter how the official narrative of this turns out, it seemed to Heidi. These are the places we should be looking, not in newspapers or television, but at the margins, graffiti, uncontrolled utterances, bad dreamers who sleep in public and scream in their sleep. That's from Bleeding Edge. I watched the film Lucy on the plane back from Dubai. I said to Nisha, rather an excellent movie, which it was. She said, you mean Scarlett Johansson? And I said, okay, yes. Put up a photograph of Miss Scarlett Johansson in Lucy. Political reflections. They won't give up because they will always try to chain it, Putin said during his annual press conference in Moscow, comparing Russia to a bear protecting its territory. As soon as they chain it, they'll rip out its teeth and claws. Under the most negative external economic scenario, this situation can last 2 years, Putin said. If the situation is very bad, we will have to change our plans, cut some things. Russia's currency reserves have declined by a fifth to $415 billion over the past year. This is what I agree with. This is Jim O'Neill. Putin made a bad calculation regarding the collapsing oil price. He might not have really took it into his mind that oil could drop this much, and I think that's the point. The president accused the US and the EU of using the Ukraine conflict to contain Russia, as they've done since the end of the Cold War, through the expansion of NATO, comparing the current situation to the Berlin Wall. This is payback for our natural desire to preserve ourselves as a nation, as a civilization and state. The crisis in Ukraine should make our partners understand that it's time to stop building walls. I agree with Jim O'Neill that Putin did not see the 21st century currency and oil warfare specialist Barack Obama coming. Or maybe he saw it coming at OPEC and G20. If you look at his body language, I think it suddenly dawned on him the virulence, the ferociousness of what was about to happen. And on the December the 1st, I said it's a very 21st century shock and awe, and that's even without having to fire a bullet. President Obama I described as a subtle, skilled, hard-nosed exponent of currency and now oil warfare. This plan to undercut oil was exquisitely constructed and executed. The Russian ruble has been crushed. The central bank has dropped $100 billion defending the currency. Putin, to go back to what he was saying yesterday, there was a Q&A session. No, this is not payback for Crimea. This is payback, or rather payment, for our natural desire for self-preservation as a nation, as a civilization, as a state. Sometimes it occurs to me perhaps our bear should sit back peacefully, stop chasing piglets around the tiger woods, and just feed on berries and honey. Perhaps then they'll leave him alone. No, they won't, because they will always want to put him on a chain. And as soon as they succeed in putting him on a chain, they will rip out his teeth and his claws. Put up an image of him speaking at that press conference. I'll put up a 3-month chart of the Russian ruble, where shorts might have finally been trapped by close to 80. The 3-month Moss Prime interbank lending rate is at 28.3%. The stock market, however, has sharply bounced, about 32% from Tuesday's low. I thank Jamie at Reuters for the tweet. I'll put that up as well. And then I go back to a speech he made in November, where he said, "We see the tragic consequences of the so-called colour revolutions and ordeals survived by the peoples of the states that face these irresponsible experiments of covert and sometimes even overt interference into their lives," he said. "This is a lesson in mourning for us, and we will do everything possible to prevent this from happening in Russia." I couldn't resist this headline from Bloomberg View: Obama ends the Castro regime. Moving to Pakistan, after slaughtering 132 school children and 9 members of staff, militants contacted their commanders to say, "We have killed all the children in the auditorium. What do we do now?" Asked what the gunman should do next, Umar responds, "Wait for the army people, kill them before blowing yourself up." This, the official said, was one of the final conversations intercepted between the gunmen and their handlers, taking place moments before the 2 remaining militants charged the army's special operatives. Meanwhile, a Pakistani court granted bail to a man accused of masterminding one of the region's most deadly previous terror attacks, the one in Mumbai. Apparently he's been picked up again. Student Muhammad Bakir survived the Taliban attack on a military-run school, holds a photograph of his mother, the teacher at the school and a victim of the attack. The Nation is saying the CIA just didn't torture, it experimented on human beings. Human experimentation was a core feature of the CIA's torture program. The experimental nature of the interrogation and detention techniques is clearly evident in the Senate Intelligence Committee's executive summary of its investigative report, despite redactions to obfuscate the locations of these laboratories of cruel science and the identities of perpetrators. International markets, the Dow Jones surged the most since 2011, and the S&P capped its best 2-week gain in 3 years. This is on the perception that, in point of fact, Janet Yellen was in fact quite dovish. I'm not sure that interpretation is necessarily correct. The S&P added 2.4% to 2,061. Index climbed 4.5%. Over 2 days, the most since November 2011. The Dow Jones gained 421.28 points. Technology shares soared. Oracle increased the most in 6 years. Now, this was amid a global rally. MSCI All Country World Index soared 2%. Emerging market stocks surged 1.9%. Stocks Europe 600 up 3%, the most in 3 years. Eric Scott Hunsader, who I follow on Twitter, and put some very nice diagrams of market action, I'm going to put something up he posted. The black line was the biggest gain for the E-mini since at least the 1st of December 2012. Currency markets, the Swiss have introduced a charge of 0.25% on sight deposits, the cash-like holdings of commercial banks at the central bank, and will apply that as of Jan 22nd. Euro 122.77, dollar index 89.28, Japanese yen 119.32. It's slumped 8.5% against the dollar since October 30th. Swissy weaker 0.9812, pound 156.55, Aussie 0.8179. Australian shipments to China accounted for $142 billion last year, almost double the amount sent to Japan. I expect that to slow down quite dramatically in 2015. India rupee 63.055, South Korean won 11.03, Rial 266.27, so that's improved. Egyptian pound 715.10, and the rand a little bit firmer at 11.54.88. A gauge of the US dollar headed for its 8th weekly gain in the past 9 weeks. And I, for one, think it's going considerably higher. The dollar has strengthened 12% in 2014. Euro is down 1.5% in the year, 2.9%. I'll put up a 3-month chart of the dollar index. My target is 100. Euro dollar, my target is parity. And then Jolshan has tweeted, Google is now worth more than the entire Russian stock market. Crude oil, I'll put up a 5-day chart, $50.84 last time I checked. Interestingly, has spiked 3 times in the last 5 sessions to 59 and then fallen back down. The contract expires today. It's now moving to the next contract. These were the lowest closes since 2009, and we've sort of found a short-term base just above 50. I think we're going to 50 and then 40. But now we're in a period through Christmas where I think we'll see it trade in the maximum range of 50-59. I'll put up a 3-month chart of crude oil as well. Gold 1197.745. I think that's headed a lot lower. And again, going back to Hunsader, he's tweeted CME March wheat futures halted for 10 seconds. Posted the diagram. I'll put that up as well. Old Pix Archive have tweeted child soldiers with their weapons in South Sudan in 1971. And I thought to myself, what little has changed. 203 days ago, when I was in Maputo and I took a photograph of the poster advertisement for the Africa Rising conference, and I tweeted Africa Rising, but no longer in the rising tide floats all boats wade was in 2012 and 2013, and I don't think I'm wrong. Legatum have put out their Africa Prosperity Report. Interesting reading, lots in there. Do have a look. The link is on Rich Wrap-Ups. I like this quote from Fitch's Lewis, who said, in the current context, Ivory Coast appears like a hub of stability. Countries to the west battling Ebola, nations to the east facing plunging oil prices, Ivory Coast is weathering the West African storm. World's biggest cocoa producer is shaking off more than a decade of political instability, with economic growth above the sub-Saharan African average before elections next year. There's a new track record that's very positive, combination of high growth, support from donors, structural reforms underway, a forecast to expand 8.5% this year versus the sub-Saharan African average of 5.1%. Inflation was 1% in November, while in Guinea, where the Ebola outbreak was first reported, consumer prices accelerated at an annual rate of 9.5% last month, Ghana 17%. Cocoa, I'll put up a 1-year chart. The South African all-share spiked 4.25% high yesterday. The all-share is up 6.5591% year to date. Biggest daily gain in nearly 6 years. Dollar rand improved to 11.5484. Egyptian pound officially still at 7.15. The stock market in Egypt bounced 3.39%. So you can see Africa on the bounce there, except Nairobi. Egyptian stock markets up 23.842% year to date. Angola and Nigerian woes to hit local firms, report in BD Live. Nigeria and Angola are reeling, their economies hit by a 40% slump in the oil price since June. Brent crude oil is now trading at around $59. Angola's economy is being hit hard. Even the banks are running short of cash. That's a bit worrying, isn't it? Funds are devaluing at an annual rate of 18% against the dollar. The central bank wants a gradual decline, but they might not be able to achieve it. China, of course, is going to step in, sees Angola as a strategic partner. It's going to lend Angola Solid Gold $2 billion. Nigerian oil shares snapped an 8-session losing streak to close higher by 1.21% yesterday. Nigerian foreign currency dealers halted trading after the central bank changed rules on how many dollars can be held at the end of the day. They changed it to zero. Central bank changed rules. Banks have to sell all dollars they buy from the market, not to keep them until the following day. That was the Deputy Central Bank of Nigeria, Governor Sarah Alady. It's to ensure dollar liquidity. We have noticed some dealers speculating on the currency because of the pressure from declining oil prices. The Naira has fallen 13% against the dollar this quarter, the worst among 24 African currencies tracked by Bloomberg after Malawi's Kwacha. The central bank apparently sold dollars to support the Naira on Thursday after the currency hit a record low of 188.85 against the dollar, dealers said. Godwin Emefiele told Reuters he was barring commercial banks from holding their own funds in dollars in order to end speculative pressure on the ailing Naira. On the 10th of November, eyes are turning to the markets in Africa. The Nigerian Naira and the central bank does not have, I said the Nigerian Naira and the all-share index have been wagadoogooed by the collapse in the price of oil. 19th of November, I said the currency heads to 200. That the central bank does not have the firepower. I think 220 is where it's going now. 24th of November, I said Nigeria in the eye of the storm. Abu Bakr Shekau has popped up. You, Sanusi, I am talking to you. It is too late for you, the Emir of Kano and the Emir of Bank. I said in an unverified 19-minute video posted on YouTube. Sanusi was the former central bank governor and told Nigerians last month to fight back against Boko Haram. Vigilantes and hunters, you've gone astray, should repent and put hands together and work for God. Even you, Sanusi, if you can repent, we can work together, he said. Don't you see that I'm furious? The Ghana Stock Exchange is at 5-month highs and up 7.552% year to date. Mozambique has published a law enabling Eni and Anadarko gas investments. Quite liberal. Approved the law number 25, included it in the Bulletin of the Republic, dated December the 2nd. Eni and Woodlands Anadarko are considering whether to develop offshore fields that are estimated by Mozambique's national oil company to hold 250 trillion cubic feet of gas. That's enough to meet world consumption for more than 2 years. The country may become the world's largest exporter of liquefied natural gas after Qatar and Australia. The law gives both sides considerable certainty, sets out clear parameters for future revisions. This is a lady from Teneo Intelligence. Groups will have the legal and fiscal framework guaranteed for the 30-year duration of their exploration and production concessions, subject to meeting with the government 10 years and 20 years after the delivery of the first gas cargoes to revise the levels of taxation. Normal royalty rate for gas projects in Mozambique is 6%, but earlier deals with Anadarko and Eni had put it at 2%. Government can seek to improve its take after 10 and 20 years respectively, but within clear boundaries set out within the decree law. Another key provision is that companies involved with the projects will be allowed to keep gas revenue in bank accounts outside Mozambique, using a local account only to pay taxes, buying goods and services in the country, paying local workers. Spelled out specific regulation regarding the project company's use of foreign workers. and the building of a gas liquefaction facility onshore. I said in June and previously Mozambique could be the next Qatar. On that note, I'll put up a photograph of the evening in Maputo taken 202 days ago. Ethiopia's capital's metro is set for completion in January, apparently. Fights broke out in the Kenyan parliament over controversial anti-terrorism laws yesterday. Parliamentary Speaker Justin Muturi was pelted with books, documents, other objects by opposition MPs as emotions ran high over the bill. It's not an anti-terror bill, it's an anti-media, anti-activist, anti-citizens bill, said Boniface Mwangi. They can arrest me without evidence or a warrant. We are going back to the days of dictatorship. Bill includes proposals extending the time police can hold terror suspects from the current 90 days to nearly a year, increasing sentences and giving investigators more powers to tap phones. Landlords compelled to provide information about their tenants. Journalists could face up to 3 years behind bars if their reports undermine investigations or security operations relating to terrorism, or if they publish images of terror victims without permission from the police. The President said, "There is nothing to fear about the bill unless you've been engaging in criminal activities." Daily Nation says the very real and present dangers must not be used as an excuse to roll back the gains of a free and democratic society. Kenya has been seen as a crucial democratic bulwark in East Africa, with a vibrant media, hub of international agencies and civil society organizations, and a flourishing internet. Yet this week, government announced it was shutting down more than 500 NGOs, and the influential blogger Robert Alai, compromised individual, frankly, was charged with undermining the presidency after a tweet in which he called Kenyatta an adolescent president who would actually put up Kenyatta's phone number. That was the reason. Matters reached a head in Parliament on Thursday when MP traded blows before TV cameras. Campaigners said it defied the popular will. Dungi Githuku, it is a draconian law that the majority of Kenyans are against. It means we're going back to the dark days when you could be arrested at any time and the police think you're a threat to national security. You cannot express yourself freely. You cannot sing a song that is a threat to them. It's like 1986 when people were thrown into torture chambers. Laws were also condemned by Abdullahi Boru, who's an analyst and researcher for Amnesty, and I think he makes the right point. It speaks to the paranoia of the government when they can't control the narrative. It's not the media's fault if the police are corrupt. The elephant in the room is Kenya's lack of a plan regarding Somalia. Again, another point. Kenya and Kenyatta are trying to model themselves on Rwanda, Uganda, and Ethiopia, but all these three regimes are a function of the way they came to power. These are governments that were formed in the bush and are principally military governments. Kenyans need to be cognizant of that. There are better ways of fighting terrorism than rolling back the freedoms of the past 20 years. Put up a photograph of Westgate 451 days ago. Yash Gai told the FT, all democratic safeguards are disappearing one by one. I think it's just going to be just as bad as under former President Moi. It really has become a military regime, he said. I think the issue of loss of narrative control is important, and I think there is just a new real-time normal the world over. And instead of these blanket-style measures, which are steeped in repression in their execution, and therefore are a net loss, not a net gain, I think we need to be improving coordination, collaboration, and intelligence. Modern Corps has tweeted this is one of the police stations in northeastern near our border. It's a shame. Sassini Tea and Coffee reported sharply slower full-year results, profit after tax down 50.65%, full-year revenue down marginally, finance costs up 221%, full-year profit before tax down 60.99%, profit after tax down 50.65%, EPS down 81.48%, managed to keep the dividend unchanged. Of course, it's been a very difficult tea price backdrop, tea price realization, this is from the commentary, accompanying the results dropped sharply from last year's average of $2.26 per kilogram to $1.82 per kilogram. They said they couldn't take advantage of high coffee prices because of poorer production. Lake Turkana Wind Power has signed a $625 million loan, which is the biggest in Kenya's private sector history apparently. Put up a photograph of the sunset at Lake Turkana in Kenya. Kenya shilling relatively stable at 90.41. Nairobi all share had a bad session yesterday on heavy volume, down 1.7% as contagion caught up with us just as the other markets turned higher. The all shares up 15.301%, has corrected 5.95% since setting a record on the 8th of this month. The NSE 20 fell 1.8% below 5,000 and is at an August 2014 low. Morningstar, in an interesting piece, has put the break-even price for oil from the Lokichar Basin at about $50 per barrel. Interesting piece about Mount Kenya's vanishing glaciers. This is the New York Times, describing a fellow Benuzi did manage to escape the camp and climb to the summit of the mountain's third highest peak. It was so cold, the air so thin on the mountain that even walking with his fire rate for 20 minutes exhausted Norfolk completely. He was like a man lost on an island, pacing and waving in flame for help. But his camera, set for an exposure of an hour or more, captured his movement as a solid line of fire, a burning scar. It's all about Mount Kenya and the glaciers or reduction. Lovely slideshow as well. I'll put up a photograph of the peaks of Mount Kenya, seen from the slopes of the Fairmont Mount Kenya, 365 days ago to be exact. And you can see a green light in the photograph. Took me back to Gatsby and how he believed in the green light, the orgiastic future that year by year recedes before us. It eluded us then, but that's no matter. Tomorrow we will run faster, stretch our arms out further. And one fine morning, so we beat on, boats against the current, bowled back ceaselessly.